Welcome back, everyone. I'm David Greenberg, and of course, you are watching freedomvibe.art. And we are here with the first of hopefully what will be many valued guests here. I don't really have a podcast, as you guys know, but I'm kind of shifting gears here and bringing on some guests because some of the material we're going to be getting into coming up is really important. I want to bring in people who have experience and expertise to talk about it. So on the coattails of the last video I published where I talked about conditional acceptance, I brought in Brandon Joe Williams, and Brandon is here. He is someone who is already deep into not just studying, but actually executing, implementing, getting results from basically, to put it in a nutshell, extracting yourself from the matrix. So being able to operate outside of the matrix and also within the matrix as you prefer. So we're going to dive into that a bit. We're going to be talking about things like conditional acceptance. Again, go check out my previous video if you don't know what that is. We're going to talk about probably the concept of infinite money a lot and how to actually, how to overstand your actual relationship with the financial system, which I certainly didn't understand. And I'm still just getting my head wrapped around it. And a lot of people don't. And once you do overstand it, it opens up a lot of abundance. So I know that's a lot of things to start with. Brandon, I want to welcome you here and just introduce yourself.
Hello. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I'm basically head researcher, I guess you could call head researcher, and I organize information and I publish it in a way that's goofy and fun, and I basically turn all this stuff into a Beavis and Butthead show. Or I think Beavis and Butthead is in the last show I was on yesterday, I said Bill Nye the Science Guy of banking, but I think it's more like Beavis and Butthead of banking, to be honest.
That's awesome. We got to keep it fun, right?
Yeah, you got to keep it fun, got to keep it simple. I mean, the primary barrier to all of this information is the emotions.
I would agree with that.
I'm so angry because it's like no one ever told this to me. The banks have been screwing me, all this, blah blah. So there's a lot of vengeful, emotional blowback that people experience, and that's kind of like the hardest part. And I think that the bringing levity into the situation is probably the most important element of my entire brand, and it's why my brand has grown and is growing at such a wild breakneck pace. I think that is the most important ingredient.
That's awesome. And I can tell you, like, I'm not immune to those emotions either. Like when I first discovered this, I was kicking myself. I mean, I felt a lot of different things. Just for context, people who follow me know this. I'm 53 years old, so I'm not a spring chicken. It's never too late to discover this stuff. But of course, when you realize that there are things that had you known many years ago could have made all the difference, of course, you're going to feel strong emotions. So I think I really respect the non-combative and respectful, gentlemanly way of approaching all this. And I think that's something that's really is worth emphasizing as far as this approach. So I think because I come from a community of freedom, truth seekers, freedom fighters, people who want more freedom in the world, and that's great. But some of them, and I'm not faulting them for this in context, but sometimes it can be very combative. And I think what's elegant about this is we're approaching everything from a very high position, a position of honor. The word honor is really relevant here in context. So I don't know if Brandon, if you want to share some thoughts about that before we start diving in more.
No, you said it beautifully.
Great. So I kind of brought out the ideas of conditional acceptance and infinite money. Like, which of those two do you want to kind of start off with? And I'll just mention my audience probably has not been exposed to these concepts hardly at all. So it is kind of a beginner's context.
Yeah, no problem. Either way, I mean, honestly, as funny as it might sound, infinite money is probably more simple than a conditional acceptance. But
Yeah.
either way, whatever you want to do, we'll start wherever you want to start. I don't mind.
Okay. Well, let's start with infinite money because I know a lot of people are struggling financially. And they're kind of running the hamster wheel, and they're wondering if there is any possibility of getting themselves out of it. So how would you explain this, kind of to open up the conversation? How would you explain this concept of infinite money? Like, where would you want to start with that?
It's pretty easy. So basically, if you look in your wallet and you look at the little green things that you give people that somehow magically allow you to acquire goods and services, um, and you read the top of what it says on that thing, it says Federal Reserve Note. When you go online and you start to do a little research on what the word note means, one of the best places you can go to look that up is the like you were mentioning earlier, the Bill of Exchange Act of 1882. And if we pull that up here,
I'm picturing you having like a giant 30 to 40-inch monitor in front of you with everything. It just looks like you're working with a big system there.
yeah, I bought a TV that has 120 hertz refresh rate. It's 65 inches, and I have a giant custom built computer that I built myself that's like sitting over there. It's like massive. It's like the size of like an old computer from like 1992. And
Nice.
and then I have a rubber protector kind of a thing that you can like roll over with like a wheelchair or whatever, and it runs all my wires to like a big desk. And so I have like a whole setup, like a whole command system. It's kind of funny. I always wanted to have something like this, and so it's just kind of fun to have a huge monster screen. But then I have this light ring. So you'll always see
Yep.
in all my shows, I'm always going like this because
Yeah.
this light ring is huge, and so I have to kind of look through it to see anything. All right, so in the Bill of Exchange Act, this is the correct one that I was looking for. If you go down to the definition section, you'll see here, bill means bill of exchange, and note means promissory note. Okay, so the Federal Reserve note, anytime you see the word note on anything, that means promissory note. Okay, and let's see, UCC, I think it's UCC 3-104. What is a promissory note, right? So there's a body of law called the Uniform Commercial Code.
Yep.
And you can go into the UCC. Article 3 is what talks mainly about the definition of promissory note. So you could type into Google something like definition of promissory note from UCC Article 3. And it'll come up and it'll say be signed by the maker or drawer, contain an unconditional promise if it's a promissory note, and an order if it's a check. So it's really interesting. You start to clear up a lot of these words and stuff like that, and you'll see that a check is not a rectangular piece of paper that has things on it that you get from your bank. It's actually its most simple definition, its most simple form is just simply an order.
Yep.
To move funds or to pay funds, right? And then a promissory note is the credit side. So this is the debit side, right? Like your debit card is like basically whenever you use your debit card, you're doing an order or an
Yep.
e-check essentially, right? Whenever you use your credit card, you're doing a promissory note transaction, right? So if you look at, let me see if I can
You're
find.
basically promising to make a payment sometime in the future. It's a promise to pay, basically.
Yeah, and let me just see here. UCC 3-104. If you look at here we go. A negotiable instrument and promissory note being basically pretty similar things. It's an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money with or without interest or other charges. So if you look on your check, let's say example picture of a check. So we have the date, and then we have this wording here, paid to the order of, and then you write in how much it is here in numbers, and then you write here how much it is in words and figures, which
Yep.
actually comes from the Bill of Exchange Act. And then you sign it here. This is actually called an endorsement. You're actually releasing the document or the instrument. The signature line is basically, nobody knows this. The signature line is actually an endorsement line. And what endorsement means is it means instructions and approval to release or exchange the instrument. So if you're the holder, you're in control of this instrument, and then the way in which you endorse or sign the instrument on the bottom right is your release specifications or exchange specifications. There's all sorts of shit you can write in here. Okay. Now, pay to the order of, you can do a lot of things in here. You can put the word bearer in here. You can put a person's name in here. You can put, I've heard people put the word cash in there, yep. Right? So you can do all sorts of things, right? So it says here, what is it? It's payable to bearer or to order, meaning like pay to the order of, and then someone's name, right? Now, bearer, actually, when you do bearer, it actually transforms that check into cash. And the reason why that is because anyone can take this instrument and go and deposit it in their bank account if it's paid to the order of bearer. Okay, it's really powerful, actually. So you can actually create your own currency by just taking a whole bunch of checks from your checkbook and writing pay to the order of bearer, and then putting $1 here, and then saying $1 here, and then memo. You can write whatever you want there. It doesn't really matter. And then just signing it. You wouldn't sign it with a special endorsement. You would just sign it with a blank endorsement, meaning just your typical bullshit that you would put on there. You put the date. And you actually just turn this into a Brandon Joe Williams note. And anyone who possesses that note possesses a $1 bill.
Yep.
And that's the way that promissory
note. The bearer
work.
Is the person who's actually possessing it. Is that right?
The bearer. So when you give it to somebody else, when you start studying how it all works, there's a whole subject of tender and acceptance, and there's a whole banking technology as to how all this works, right? So if I offer you the definition of the word tender, which I have here on my law firm website, right? So the definition of tender, because you've heard the word tendering a bill, you've heard the word tender this, you've heard the word legal tender. Everyone's heard these words, and nobody really knows what they are. People think it means money. It doesn't mean money at all. Tender, a couple definitions here: the offer of performance, not performance itself. And when unjustifiably refused, places other party in default and permits party making tender to exercise remedies for breach of contract. So most people believe when they hear the word default, they believe that definition only and explicitly encompasses when you fail to pay a bill of which you owe. And that is not true. The other party can also default by failing to accept a payment that was tendered, of which is a legal payment. And there's a lot of different ways that you can make payment. It's actually mind-blowing how many different ways there are to make payment. And the funny thing is we have so many different people that are sending in these payments, and they're being rejected, quote unquote. And what's actually happening, what they don't realize is that the banking institution or the financial institution, when they send these letters back, it's so stupid. When they send these letters back saying that they're not going to accept the tender, that the letter becomes absolutely irrefutable evidence that the financial institution has actually defaulted on that loan.
Yep.
You can take them to court and win, like literally so easily. It's like eating a ham sandwich. That's how easy it's going to be. Because they send these letters out all the time. Oh, we're not going to accept this is a payment. We're not going to accept this. We're not going to accept that. You've already won the court case before it even started. Okay.
Yep. It's just most people give up. A lot of people will give up because they got a negative response, and people are often programmed or habitually thinking that if they got a negative response back from the institution, like, oh, what do I know? I'm not an attorney. And well, actually, my response to that would be, well, educate yourself, learn so you don't need to
go meet some attorneys. Go meet some attorneys.
Yeah,
you'll learn that you've probably got more brain cells to rub together than most attorneys. So that's coming from a guy who calls himself an attorney, but I only call myself that because there's really no other real term that give anybody any understanding of anything that I do besides the words attorney and the word lawyer. So I use them out of a necessity, but Um, anyways, definition number 2 of tender: an offer of money, the act by which one produces and offers to a person holding a claim or demand against him the amount of money which he considers to, and admits to be due in satisfaction of such claim or demand without any stipulation or condition. So it's offering money to a person who is holding a claim or demand against you, and that the offer of that money is without stipulation or condition. So the word tender comes before acceptance.
Yep.
So you tender means offer without condition, and then they accept the unconditional offer. That's actually the legal terms and the legal way in which it works, right? So what happens is that everything's a promissory note, right? So as we're going to go into more in this presentation, promising to pay anything and sending it in, if they deny that particular thing, because you have to look at the word payment, right? Most people think payment means that you send in Federal Reserve notes, which has absolutely nothing to do with the word payment. No. They say, please enclose your payment. They say, please make payment to. They say payment. What is the definition of payment? Definition of payment is the fulfillment of a promise or the performance of an agreement, right? The agreement that you have with your mortgage and your credit card and everything else is all based off of a bill of exchange. Because if you look in the Bill of Exchange Act, bill means bill of exchange and note means promissory note, right? So what they're doing is they're sending you a bill of exchange at the end of the month, and your job is to perform the banking requirements of the Bill of Exchange as per the Bill of Exchange Act, which has absolutely nothing to do with sending in Federal Reserve notes. So I'll give you an example of how insane that actually is. Making payment with Federal Reserve notes is like, let's say you have a motorcycle and the motorcycle just doesn't really run very good. Okay. You need to figure out why the motorcycle doesn't run very good. It kind of dies sometimes. It's like an old carbureted, maybe like a 1982 like Honda or something like that. Okay. And you're like, I need to maybe clean the carburetor or rebuild the carburetor, or maybe there's something else wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with like the fuel pump. It's not pumping fuel into the engine well enough. Something's wrong. I need to figure out why. So what you do is you go down to Home Depot, you buy a 2x4, you bring it home, you shave it down the end of it to look like a tip, and then you take nails and you nail that 2x4 into the wall above your sink in your kitchen. And you're like, I'm not sure why this isn't fixing my motorcycle not running that well. that is literally how completely irrelevant and totally insane sending in Federal Reserve notes is in terms of paying or making payment on a bill of exchange. They're completely disrelated, have absolutely nothing to do with each other. It's almost like witchcraft. It's like someone taking powder and shaking it over your head and doing like a rain dance around you to try to heal you from, pancreatic cancer or something like that. I don't know. Even that's more effective than even shaman healing is more effective than paying bills of exchange with Federal Reserve notes. My God. So
electronic or otherwise. In other words, we're not just talking about sending in cash payments. We're talking about any type of payment through using Federal Reserve notes, whether it's directly debited from your account or in any scenario.
Yeah. So every single time you make a payment using Federal Reserve notes, you are failing to perform on the agreement. The fulfillment of a promise or the performance of an agreement. You are failing to perform on the agreement dismally. Now, the reason why is because you every single time you use your credit card, you are producing a promise to pay. When you sign the little piece of paper, digitally or otherwise, and you don't actually even need to sign it. As per your card member agreement, it'll say, it's a so basically the little chip that you have in your credit card that you plug into the little reader, that's actually what's called a EMV chip, which has a digital signature. And then if you look at the back of your credit card, it has the signature area that you're supposed to sign before use. It says authorized signature, right?
Yep.
So your signature is already digitally embedded into the use of the card. And if you read the card member agreement, you'll see that, your signature is attached to all your transactions, whether you actually physically sign or not, right?
And whether they're
So,
online or not, I would imagine as well.
doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
basically there's three things that a promissory note has to have in order to be considered a promissory note. It has to be unconditional promise to pay. It has to be um, written or digitally written.
Okay.
Written encompasses digital as well, as per the e-sign act of the year 2000. And it has to be an unconditional promise to pay. Unconditional is an interesting aspect. It can't be conditional. Okay. So every time you use your credit card, there's an unconditional promise to pay associated with that transaction. So what you're doing is you're actually manufacturing a security. Mm-hmm. So it's like every time you get one of these pieces of paper, a receipt, the definition of the word receipt when it's a credit transaction is proof that currency or proof that securities have been manufactured.
Yep.
When you pay with Federal Reserve notes, it's different because you're giving them a promissory note or a security that already existed. You're not manufacturing it out of thin air in that moment. So you could almost go so far as to say a Federal Reserve note is almost like paying by check. You could almost say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a check that's payable to the bearer. Basically, that's what a Federal Reserve note is. Okay. Whereas a credit transaction, you're manufacturing these securities out of thin air live right there. You're bringing currency into the world that didn't exist prior to the point when you stuck your little chip reader in the little thingy.
And that's performance. Is that not, Brandon?
Well, performance is the whole shabam. It's the whole parade, right?
Okay.
So the first part of the performance would be, you're the one who decides, do I want to pay with Federal Reserve notes? Because those are accepted. But if you look at something like, for example, UCC 3-603, tender of payment, right? We've already cleaned up what both those words mean. So now we know what they're talking about here. They're talking about an unconditional offer that has to do with performing some sort of agreement or obligation. That's what tender of payment means, right? So it says here, and it says it in a whole lot of gibberish. I'm gonna reword this live so it can be more acceptable. So if someone offers offers to perform on some sort of obligation or contract, and that security or that particular thing that was used in order to make that performance is refused, then what happens is however much in promissory note or securities or whatever that was offered and not accepted, let's say, for example, if 420, let's say $4,500 was offered or tendered, and then there was no acceptance. At that point, $4,500 off of the account would be discharged because it's discharged to the extent of the amount of the tender, right? So if let's say you offered, and this gets really complicated because let's say you have a $400 bill and you offer unconditionally $800. What happens is that the if they don't take the value of the $800, then $800 is discharged off the account, which actually sends the account into a negative. All sorts of weird things with this, right? Now the thing is, all promissory notes are equal to all promissory notes in the law. So your Federal Reserve notes are no different than than whenever you use your credit card and you sign the receipt and you get a receipt. That note that was just produced has the same value in law as Federal Reserve notes. And actually, what's occurring live is the bank digitally exchanges your Brandon Williams promissory note for Federal Reserve notes, and then deposits the positive value Federal Reserve notes into your credit account all digitally and instantaneously. If you look through a lot of your receipts, you'll see all these strings of numbers and letters. Those are all the different exchanges and swaps that are occurring using that particular promissory note, all within, fractions of a second. And then what happens is that when you get your statement at the end of the month, what you're going to see is a series of security deposits. And that's why the bill or bill of exchange that you're receiving at the end of the month is actually a positive value, because when you go to the bank and you deposit promissory notes called Federal Reserve notes, you get a positive balance. When you deposit securities, promissory notes into your credit card account, what's happening is that the bank is really, really rapidly going and flipping those and exchanging them for Federal Reserve notes and then putting the Federal Reserve notes on the account. It's the exact same thing. Your credit card statements are the exact same thing as getting banking statements for your checking account. It's the exact same thing.
Yep. And I can show, I have a recent Capital One card that if you want to do a live example, I can pull that up here.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, because I actually already sent in a letter asking them to transfer the balance to the principal account. Give me 1 second. I just need to cover my account number. I can do that real quick. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more while you're doing that. So,
okay.
So basically the way it works is when you have a bank account, let's say a checking account, and you're putting Federal Reserve notes, which are securities, promissory notes. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again because it's so crazy that any of this could be true that most people need to hear it 500 times. It's okay. I get it. So you're taking these promissory notes. Now, real quick, one of the most important things in the world, what is the definition of money? Because people think that Federal Reserve notes are money, and they most definitely are not.
No.
The definition of money, there's two sections that I like to go over with this. Section number 1, it comes from the Constitution. The Constitution is clear about what money is supposed to be. And Article 1, Section 10 says, and I removed a bunch of words in between these 2 points, so you should go and look at this for yourself if you want to see the original text. You'll see the 3 dots there. That represents a section that I took out to make it simpler, because there's a whole lot of stuff that's said here, and it's just very overwhelming, so I wanted to just make it simple. No state shall, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle there, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Okay, so the Constitution is very clear that gold and silver coins is the definition of the word money. And then you look in Black's Law, and it says here, in usual and ordinary acceptation, it means gold, silver, or paper money used as circulating medium of exchange, and does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal or real estate. Now, they're saying paper money here. The paper money would have to be directly and exactly connected with gold and silver coins in order to be considered money. And even that's a bit of a stretch, because the Constitution says gold and silver coin. So paper money, if it was, let's say, a silver certificate or something like that from 100 years ago, it wouldn't actually be lawful money as per the actual explicit definition. It would be a representation of lawful money. So it's very, very particular. Okay. Now we're dealing with currency. Currency, the definition of currency is whatever, you name it. Even in the video game Fallout, currency was bottle caps after the whole war was destroyed through nuclear holocaust.
It's something that's circulating.
Something that circulates that creates an ability to exchange. Currency could be absolutely anything, whatever. So what's happening is that you're manufacturing currency, and then the bank is exchanging or swapping that currency for Federal Reserve notes and then depositing Federal Reserve notes into your account. That's essentially what's happening in that moment, right? So the word note, the word instrument, the word securities, and the word Federal Reserve note, these things all mean the same thing. It's just a bunch of complexities that don't really need to exist. They just exist to make it seem like if you're not in the in crowd and you don't have all the knowledge, then you can't do anything and you're just going to be a slave. And that's kind of the whole point. It's just an overly complicated system. It's designed that way on purpose so that the people who are on the in crowd basically can do all this stuff, and anybody who doesn't understand it or can't understand it can't.
Right, because it's all per their codes. Like it's all written, it's in the actual statutes and in the codes that this is how it works. It's just it's obfuscated. It's not clarified. So and it's not explained, certainly not in education, not as part of primary, secondary education. No one's teaching this. In fact, if you were probably asked, I'm guessing, Brandon, if you were probably to go and ask your average attorney, your average accountant, your average, someone who supposedly has this knowledge, and many of them probably wouldn't even have understood what you just explained.
I've talked to top tier 30-year veterans that are very, very senior execs in multiple banks. They don't even know this. They know parts of it.
Yeah.
But they don't really know exactly how that it works this way. And they don't understand exactly how fiat money really is. So when you deposit these Federal Reserve notes into your bank account, your checking account, now you can write a check or order to transfer X amount of notes from that account to another account. It's another word for check is draft. Okay, in the legal world, in the banking world. Now you can do that exact same thing of writing a draft or a check based off of the positive value of all of the securities that you have deposited in your credit card account. You're going to treat the credit card account like it is a bank account with positive balance from deposited securities. And that's the craziest thing in the world, because you're basically flipping your thinking entirely from thinking that it's all debits that have to be paid with Federal Reserve notes that have absolutely nothing to do with anything in order to bring the account back up to a zero. In order for that thinking to be true, in order for the thinking process of Americans who think they have to actually send in Federal Reserve notes, like eating a ham sandwich,
like trying to put out a fire with fire, maymaybe is a good analogy.
It's like trying to put out a fire by hitting on the blonde at the bar. That's how far apart. It's totally crazy. It has nothing to do with anything. You're actually failing to perform the contract. And what they're doing is they're coming in and they're performing the contract for you because you're retarded. That's literally exactly how it works.
So they're like taking the payment that you send, which is not a payment per what we just discussed.
They're taking the payment as a donation. And they're taking the payment as a donation because you're retarded.
Yeah, but they still have to do something to zero out the account.
And then they zero out the account because you're retarded.
When they do zero out the account, are they just benefiting from that? I mean, where do those securities get transferred elsewhere, or we don't know, or what happens?
I don't know exactly. I assume they just kind of sit there, and then at some point in time in the future, if you died or something like that, then they would probably get all those securities, or the government would take all those securities through some sort of escrow, through some sort of probate type of thing, right? I don't really know exactly how it all works, because there's a lot of people who go back and claim all those securities years later and they're able to get them. So they just sit in this sort of like weird black void, just kind of waiting for you to come along and claim them.
Because I'm about to go back and claim a $21,000, 1-year lease that I had. And I'm just still, I'm trying to make sure I fully understand the whole process before I actually send in the letter. But I'm going to certainly make an effort to do that, because based on everything you've said, I was out of line. I shouldn't have been sending those donations to them. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, if I've said something incorrect.
Yeah. So all you have to do, if you want to if you want to sign your lease in a way where all of your rent is paid for, and you don't ever have to pay rent anymore, you do it like this, and I'll show it to you. So if you get into endorsements, which I have a whole endorsement section now on my website, I've been getting a lot of people to send me their mortgages and all sorts of stuff, and we have after they've been processed, right? And we've been finding all these endorsements all over all these documents, right?
Proof of remedy, basically.
No, this is on the bank's end.
Oh, okay.
So this is a mortgage or something like that, right? And what they're doing is the mortgage itself, when you sign the mortgage, it is an unconditional promise to pay that's written and signed. Okay.
Yep.
So what does that mean? That means that the actual mortgage itself, the actual physical document, whether it's digital and signed or whether it's physical and signed with an ink pen of some sort, that physical document becomes a promissory note. Okay. And the value of the promissory note is the value of the full promise all the way through to the end of the promise. So if it's 30-year fixed mortgage, it'll say, $690,000 at 4%. After 30 years, you've paid $105,000, or $775,000, 650 and 50 cents or something like that, right?
Yep.
So the promissory note is worth that full amount of the full term of the full promise.
Yep.
So what they do is they take that particular promise, okay, and then what you want to do is you want to look at the Federal Reserve Act. We're going to go to the actual Federal Reserve website, federalreserve.gov.
Yep.
And we're going to look at the Federal Reserve Act from their website, because it's always the best thing to find the closest source material that you can find about things. You will find this in the United States Code as well. And we're going to go down to section 16 called note issues, which means issuing or transferring of Federal Reserve notes. And then we have here section 2, application for notes. It's a very convoluted language, and if I were to reword this in a way so where you can understand it, this first line would be, any bank can request an exchange for Federal Reserve notes. Any application for Federal Reserve notes, as long as that application is also given with some sort of collateral security, for example,
yep,
a Brandon Joe Williams note, like when I use my credit card. So that promise to pay that I created, that Brandon Joe Williams note, when they apply to transfer and exchange that Brandon Joe Williams note for Federal Reserve notes, what they're saying here is that application will always be approved as long as there is some sort of note or draft bill of exchange or something that is being offered with the application. So in my case, every single time I use my credit card, what the bank is doing is they're exchanging that promissory note that I just manufactured for Federal Reserve notes, and that exchange is always accepted. There is no such thing as a denial. It's always accepted. Always, 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 always.
Yep. So when you sign the lease, just to make sure I understand this, so when you sign the lease and it's given over to the receiving party who's accepted it, they now have a security that they can redeem for Federal Reserve notes immediately. They don't have to wait for you to quote unquote pay off the lease over 12 months. Let's say the lease is worth $21,000. That they now have a security instrument that's worth that amount of money. And that.
Well, it gets even crazier. It gets even crazier because the note is worth the value of the entire term of the entire note. So,
okay,
if the house is $665,000 and the promissory note is $780,000 after all the interest is paid, the note is actually worth $780,000. You've already paid off the principal. You've already paid off the interest for 30 entire years, all instantly as soon as you sign the document.
Yeah.
Now, what's even crazier is that mortgage document itself, once signed and deposited, valued at $755,000, that document itself starts to produce interest as well. So you're actually entitled to the entire value of the promissory note, which is way more than the value of the house itself from the inception. Plus, you're entitled to the interest on the security itself, the mortgage note. So you're probably entitled to, depending on how long you wait to actually claim these things, if you sign a note for a $655,000 house, you're probably entitled to somewhere around $820,000 in return money. So you actually, if you signed $1 million mortgage, you just instantaneously became a millionaire, which I know is completely insane. And I'm trying to explain this in a way that's very simple, but also very shocking.
Yeah. But when we say it's paid off instantly, that's per this act, that per Section 16 of the Federal Reserve Act, because the bank is able to redeem the value for the exact value of the promissory note from the Federal Reserve itself. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, but what's happening is that you are the very end of this whole thing. What happens is you did something very dumb and you failed miserably. And what happened was your performance was very, very incorrect. And that's actually what occurred. They actually didn't do anything necessarily illegal. And the reason why is because when you sign the documentation, you've seen on the back of checks, you've seen the word endorsement with an E, right?
Sure.
Well, the original term from the Bill of Exchange Act is endorsement with an I. Okay. Now, when you look up the word endorsement in Black's Law, it says here the act of a payee, drawee, a commendation, endorser, or holder of a bill, note, check, or other negotiable instrument in writing his name upon the back of the same, with or without further or qualifying words whereby the property in the same is assigned and transferred to another. So it's a transfer order, right? That's what the word endorsement is. There's a bunch of different types of endorsement. There's an accommodation endorsement, a blank endorsement right here, a conditional endorsement, a full endorsement. Now, the one that everyone is doing, and the one that everyone is doing all the time, and the one that almost every single person walking the earth in America and other countries is doing literally throughout their entire life, they have never, ever, 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 ever done anything in their entire life except a blank endorsement. If they're alive for 85 years, they're doing blank endorsements their whole life, every day for 85 years. Now, the way a blank endorsement works is one made by the mere writing of the endorser's name on the back of the note or bill, without mention of the name or any person in whose favor the endorsement is made, but with the implied understanding that the lawful holder may fill in his own name above the endorsement if he so chooses.
Kind of like a blank check.
It's a blank check. Yeah. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm releasing this currency. I'm releasing this security that I just manufactured, and I'm releasing it in a way where it's just cash. Anyone who wants to grab it and put their name on it can deposit it. You're basically donating or releasing that instrument unconditionally. The bank takes that instrument, instantaneously does a different type of endorsement, as you saw on my website. Yep. An endorsement like this. Now, as you can see, this is check. This is check terminology. Pay to the order of. Where did we see that? We saw that on examples of a check. We saw that on our check. Pay to the order of. And then we'll go back to the endorsement. Pay to the order of. They're writing a check. They're turning the promissory note into a check, right? And then you have the term here, without recourse. What does without recourse mean? A phrase meaning that one party has no legal claim against another party. So what they're doing is they're finalizing this, and they're giving themselves legal immunity. So without recourse basically means like, this is it. This is the end. We're taking control of the security, and we're now exchanging it for Federal Reserve notes. It's ours, and no one can ever come after us legally for this. It's basically like, we if you guys accept this, then there's no liability on any party, and that's it. That's the end. And this security is now fully exhausted, and we're taking final ownership of it, and that's the end of the story. And there's no more exchanging of this. There's no more anything of this. That's it. It's being completely transferred into an entirely different type of security. That's what without recourse means. And it's also legal protection for them as well, right? And then this is actually the name of the corporation of which they're going to get the Federal Reserve notes. So the Federal Reserve is going to send them a check for the full value of this promissory note. And on that check, it's going to say pay to the order of, and it's going to have Home Point Financial Corporation on it, right? By, and then this signature is referring to who is the person that is approving this promissory note to have to be exchanged for Federal Reserve notes. Now, this is not a blank endorsement.
No.
This is a full endorsement or some sort of other type of endorsement, right? A full endorsement is one by which the endorser orders the money to be paid to some particular person by name. Yeah. Now, if you look on, when you endorse the instrument, you never said who it's supposed to be paid to. You signed it with just some bullshit. They took it and they said, okay, blank endorsement. Thank you very much for your donation. And now that what they're doing is they're doing a full endorsement on this by saying, we're going to exchange this. And when it comes back in the form of Federal Reserve notes, that check that you're going to send me is going to be made out to Home Point Financial Corporation. Now, you can endorse your mortgage or your credit cards bills.
Cut out the middleman.
Cut out the middleman, and you can actually endorse anything you want with this exact same endorsement. So for me, it would be pay to the order of. I would put the without recourse up above. The reason why they have the without recourse here is because these are two different stamps. Yeah. Pay to the order of, buy this and all this. That's one stamp. And then they take a second stamp and then they stamp this in there. It's two different stamps. And you'll see that if you look on some of the other ones, you'll see that. You'll see that more often, right? This one we'll have to zoom in on. Let me zoom in on this one. Let's see here. Without recourse is up here. Without recourse, pay to the order of. You can see that this is a different stamp. You see how the weird black is like smudgy and heavier. So this is all one stamp, one big monster stamp. And then this part is a different, smaller stamp that they stamped inside that stamp. Yeah. And then this is a handwritten signature, right? But it doesn't have to be a handwritten signature. It can be a stamped signature like this. This one is stamped. I think you can't quite tell on this one, but this one looks stamped. This one definitely looks stamped, right? Yeah. Or it could be handwritten and then just photocopied in a really shitty way, because you can see these weird photocopies, this weird like dark smudgy stuff. That's from maybe even like fingerprints on a photocopier. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what we got here. But from what I can tell, it looks to me like there's two different stamps being used. One is pay to the order of, and then it has all this other shit. Some are like this, where there's a bunch of checkboxes of the four main people who create these endorsements, and then they checkbox the one of the person doing it, and then they hand sign it. Okay. Here's another one. Without recourse, pay to the order of, and there's actually lines to write something in. Yeah. And then below that, I can't quite read that, a mortgage corporation, a division of Mortgage Investors Corporation. So this one's kind of weird because it's like, who is it paid to the order of? I guess all that wording will go on the check. I don't really know. And then by line, and then the person's name, and then the person's legal name, and then their position is often on these as well. Okay.
So do you think that these people who are signing even understand what they're doing? Do they to get to that level? I mean, I'm sure
Absolutely not. I doubt it.
that's yeah, I'm just
You
thinking.
can see here, look at the font on this one, pay it to the order of, without recourse, Franklin American Mortgage Company. This one's really confusing because this looks like a separate stamp was used.
Yeah.
Bank of America NA. It's a larger, different font, and it's in a weird position that's kind of off a little bit. So this one's kind of confusing. It's like, is this one paid to the order of Bank of America NA, or is it paid to the order of Franklin American Mortgage Company? I don't know. This one's a little bit confusing. This person really doesn't know what the hell they're doing because it doesn't make any sense. Lisa Russell, funder. I mean, the title doesn't really matter. You can put on there anything, on mine, I put attorney, in fact, you can put whatever you want. So what you would do, you go down to the car dealership, and every single time they have you sign anything anywhere, you write without recourse. You can do it with a pen or a pen. Don't use a pencil. You can use a pen, and you would just write this whole thing out. Let's say there's 16 signatures to get a car. 16 times.
Yeah.
You're going to write without recourse, paid to the order of Brandon Joe Williams in all capital letters, by line, and then here is where you're going to do your dumbass signature that you do on everything that you don't have a clue.
Human name signature.
No, whatever. You could do anything in this, actually. Okay. We're learning now. You could do your weird squigglies. You could do your initials, however you normally, quote, sign, which now you're learning what that actually means. That's where you would put in here. And then below that, it would say, and I wouldn't do all caps here. I would do capital B, lowercase Randon, capital J, lowercase OE, capital W, lowercase Illiams, comma, attorney at law. So the name would be upper and lowercase here. The name would be all uppercase here. And then the by would be whatever the fuck you want to write in here. It doesn't matter. Now, if you went and did that to get a car, one of two things are going to happen. One of three things are going to happen. Number one, they're not going to know what the fuck you just did, and they're going to issue you the car. And then in a month, they're going to call you and they're going to tell you that they can't process your documents, or there's something wrong with your documents, or the signature was incorrect. And they're going to request for you to come back into the dealership to re-sign all the documentation again. That's pretty common. We're getting that quite often now. That's most likely what's going to happen. Okay. Number two, they're going to flat out refuse to give you the car and refuse to process the documentation. That's pretty much the two different things that we are seeing most often when it comes to this type of work. Okay. They cannot, you have already tendered the payment, as we covered earlier in UCC 3-603. They don't have the option to not process it, because as per UCC 3-603, if they refuse to process it, or if they accept it and process it, it doesn't make any difference at all whatsoever. It's completely irrelevant. If they accept it and they process it, then the entire car is paid off and you're done, and you can drive your car away free and clear and you can keep it. If they don't accept it, they just defaulted on the loan agreement. It's now fully paid off and you can now drive your car free and clear. It makes no difference whether they accept the tender of that instrument or not. It makes absolutely it's completely irrelevant. It's like, okay, you turned in your credit application, you took the keys, you drove off, and they called you and they said, "I'm really, really sorry, Mr. Williams, but we're not going to be able to feed the Eastern African giraffes this Thursday at 4 p.m. because I got a flat tire on my hot air balloon. That is literally how insane and irrelevant them calling you and telling you that they can't process or won't process the documents. Right. You literally laugh at them.
Same thing if they deny your credit application. It's like,
yeah, they can't deny your credit. That's a whole nother subject. But yes, the thing is that when you sign the credit application in this way, or endorse is a proper word, if you just replace the word signature with the word endorsement in your mind forever, it's really going to help a lot. You don't need a credit score. Credit scores have nothing to do with anything because you're paying in cash. When you sign the documentation in this way, it's actually a cash transaction.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to produce cash out of thin air and then hand it to you.
Yeah.
And that's basically the simple route of how this works. There's a lot more to it, obviously. There's a lot of other words we can get into, and there's a lot of other things that we can say. But you can go and you can get a custom stamp made that says, without recourse, pay to the order of Brandon Joe Williams in all capital letters, by line, no signature. Below that, upper and lowercase, Brandon Joe Williams, comma, upper and lowercase, attorney in fact. And then you can take that anywhere you want. I have a whole bunch of different stamps, huge stamps. It's 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And you would stamp that on the document, and then you would take an ink pen and you would hand sign your signature here. That's what I would do. Yep. If I was trying to get, let's say, a free RV or a free car or a free house, something like that. Okay. This also applies to loans, business loans. This also applies to personal loans. This also applies to student loans. This applies to literally everything. COVID EIDL loans, COVID 7A loans. People are like, does it work with that? Does it work with that? It works with fucking anything. Literally everything. Anything, everything, always, everywhere. That's the answer. Okay. Now, what you can do is, let's say you have a bunch of old debts and you just did a dumbass blank signature on the old debts. So I'm taking on yeah, me too. Same here. I'm taking on a lot of clients right now, and what I'm doing is I'm basically saying, I'm creating a power of attorney, and I'm saying, hey, due to non-disclosure and breach of fiduciary duties, you guys could have easily explained to me how to properly endorse these instruments, and it wouldn't have taken you more than 20 minutes to explain it, and you never did. And you guys are the trustees of this whole thing. You're supposed to have my best interest in mind. Instead, you're jerking me around and tricking me into donating these things and giving them away with a blank endorsement. So all assumptions that all my previous documentation is under a blank endorsement is hereby fraudulent. And from this point forward, all previous contracts, all current contracts, and all future contracts will contain and do contain and are currently containing the following endorsement. And then I write this endorsement down. So now what happens is that you're, and then this goes into litigation. This goes into kind of the whole 9 yards. Because now what you're doing is you're saying, had I known this very, very simple information, I wouldn't have voluntarily, it's like, even in a court of law, let's say it goes to a jury trial, which it never will. You would go to the jury and you would say, of the people here in the jury, would any of you just, if you had 720,000 Federal Reserve notes in your pocket, how many of you would just give it away? Literally just throw it in the air or give it to the bank. How many of you would just voluntarily just completely gift that money, that currency, to the bank? None of them would raise their hand. And you would say, no. Exactly. So had I known that that's what I was doing in that moment, it would have never happened. It actually doesn't make sense. You cannot prove intent. They can't prove intent that you knew and had the intent to do this and you did this, because there's no one in the world, even the most crazy, batshit crazy person, wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So the thing is that they never want this stuff to go to trial. They never want it to go anywhere because they know they cannot defend against this. It's a physical impossibility to defend against it. Then you start looking into securities fraud and kind of that kind of thing. And a lot of the securities fraud stuff has like 30-year prison sentences attached to it. It's really gnarly. It's really nasty stuff, right? So then you start getting into that kind of a thing and you start saying like, look, this is, I could actually do criminal prosecution on this. They get really nervous really fast. So the thing is that, that's kind of the direction that we're heading with this right now. There's a lot of tests that are occurring, and we're just going to see where things go. But basically the whole purpose of what we're doing, what we're trying to do, is we're going to give, let's say, for example, American Express. So we're going to all get Amex Black cards, okay? And we're going to say, look, we're going to give you limited power of attorney to actually write these endorsement orders and to actually exchange all of these positive value securities Federal Reserve notes and put them onto the account on our behalf. We don't even want to do it anymore. We're not going to write these endorsements
So
on
it's
all.
automatically there's automatic set off every month. So you don't have to
Automatic set off every month right now. In exchange, because in order to have a contract, so in contract law, in order to have a contract, there has to be equal consideration.
Sure.
So they're not going to work for free. So you got to say to yourself, okay, well, what's the consideration? What are you going to offer them? For the longest time, I thought I would offer them some sort of currency exchange, sort of like when you go to Europe and you're going to be exchanging currency, you pay a small currency exchange fee or rate, right?
Yeah.
Even better than that. When your securities are manufactured, they sit in the account producing positive value interest until the end of the month. What you're going to do is you're going to offer the credit card companies or the financial companies or even old loans, you're going to offer them the interest that is generated from those securities. Almost everybody believes that when you pay for credit cards and you pay for loans and you pay for all these different things, you're the one who's supposed to be paying the interest. That's not true at all. The bank is the one paying the interest. So they're actually
the bank is the borrower. This is
the bank is the borrower. They're going to be able to keep that interest on the account.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of that situation as well is the more you spend, the more they get paid. So it's also a sliding scale that keeps in equal consideration at all times. Because if there's ever any justification like, oh, you have all these additional transactions this month, they can't complain about that because they're actually getting paid more the more you spend. And that justifies taking the credit limits off of all your accounts.
Amazing. And
if you have a fixed fee that you're paying, a fixed exchange fee that you're paying, then when they work more or they work less, there's no incentive for them. It doesn't match up to equal consideration as a contract. When you offer them the interest on the account, it's always balances the books. Everything balances perfectly. And it's a 100% perfect justification. They cannot deny your request to remove all of your credit limits when you set it up that way. They have to remove all of your credit limits.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, I'll just remind people, like, Brandon has been studying this stuff for more than a year, right? But you can too, like you who's watching this, you just have to start. I started a few months ago. So Brandon's ahead of me in his understanding and overstanding of this, obviously. But every day I'm learning, every day I'm studying, every day I'm testing, and I'm willing, one of the things I have going for me is I'm willing to put things to the test. So I've already started. I have like a spreadsheet, Brandon. I try to get really organized where I keep track of all the processes that I have in place. So whether it's, offsetting the balance of my Capital One card or going back, for a denial of credit to try to reverse that. So it's like first notice, second, third notice, and then lawsuit or judgment or federal claim, whatever, however you want to put it. So, and I haven't done most of that yet, but I'm not afraid to move forward. It's just I'm going to see how far I can push it, because obviously if a lot of these people involved in the banking system, they don't even themselves understand this, of course there's going to be people that push things back. They're going to you're not automatically just going to bowl over in the first go and say, okay, sure, no problem, here you go. I mean, sometimes people have gotten remedy on the first try, but I'm realistic. I know that it's going to take an effort, and I think this is kind of what I'm trying to convey to people watching this. Is the most important thing is you need to educate yourself how it all works, so that as you move through this process, you're coming from an empowered and informed position, like you're in the right. See, if you don't fully understand that you're in the right, you're gonna be shaky on this, as Chris Hauser said. You don't want to be shaky on this. You want to be firm. The banks is the borrower. That's why the bank pays the interest. You have created, and they are accepting a security collateral from you, the lender, right? You got to understand that, right?
Yeah, it's a real mind fuck, because it's the polar opposite of what everybody thinks everything is. It's the polar opposite. The bank, you are manufacturing a security out of thin air whenever you use your credit card, not your debit card.
Right.
When you use your debit card, you're doing a draft or check it's an order to take already manufactured deposit funds. It's like this. Actually, now that I think about it, this is a really good. I've never used this analogy. I just thought of it like literally right now. So when you use your debit card or your checkbook, it's sort of like you already have a little pond in your backyard, and you're saying go and take out 2 buckets or 3 buckets or 4 buckets or 5 buckets of water from this pond. I already have it, the pond.
Yeah.
And you're going to take those 5 buckets and you're going to put them in a truck and you're going to drive them over to this location. And then they're going to take ownership of those 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 buckets of water that I already had in the backyard. Okay. When you use credit is like, there's no pond. There's no anything. There's this giant, like those devices that are really crazy where they take the moisture out of the air and they create water out of it by condensing the water in the, it's like an air conditioning unit. Air conditioning unit condenses the air and then pushes, I think, condensed air in. And then that's why in the back of the condenser, in the back of the air conditioning unit, you have the little water, and then the water kind of drips. That's the flow out from the condensation of the water, the crushing of the water into a smaller unit. And then it becomes cold when it's condensed. I believe I'm explaining this correctly. I could be the other way around when it comes to the cold. But anyways, water is a byproduct of taking air and condensing it. Okay. So it's like a big condenser unit. And you're saying, oh, you need 4 buckets of water? No problem. And you actively live condense the water, create the water, and then there's like a chute, and it just and it shoots that water into the financial organization. It wasn't there. You say it's there, and then it's manufactured, and then live it's transferred to the financial institution, and then they take that water and they swap that water out for oil. Let's just say something ridiculous. Okay. And now they take that oil, Federal Reserve notes, and they place the oil on the account.
Amazing.
And that's essentially how it works.
Right. So that idea of just manufacturing it out of thin air, I think this is the part that most people will struggle with, but this is exactly how the financial system works. We are basically we are just creating currency out of thin air, and when people can really start to understand that, it's going to make things a lot easier. So,
and the word lending and the word, all these different words are kind of confusing because when you properly endorse the instrument, you're not really lending them. I mean, I would need to really clear up the definition of lending in more detail, but really what you're doing is you're saying it's the same thing as going to a currency exchange in Europe. You're saying, I have a $20 Federal Reserve note, and I would like to exchange this note for a different type of note, basically, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give this to you so that you can go and do the exchange because you need the collateral security, which is this. It's like, would you go to a currency exchange and say, "Oh, I want to exchange $20 in Federal Reserve notes for Hungarian money," and not give them the $20? I mean, that you would give them the $20 bill, right? I want to exchange just $20. You wouldn't, it's common sense, right? So now they have this. This is the collateral security, right? And then they go and they say, "Hey, Hungary, we have this $20 bill, blah, blah, blah." And they don't own this at that point in time. They're just temporarily holding it in order to exchange it for you as a service, right? Then they go and they exchange this for, here's a silver coin. So we'll just say this is the Hungarian money that comes back. Now what they do is they give you the Hungarian money back to you. But you got to think, did they actually own that money during that transaction? It's kind of a hard thing to think with. I don't know. I would need to see the contract, because you're almost sort of like letting them just hold it temporarily until they can get it swapped, and then they're going to give it back to you. That's the contract, right?
Almost like a referee who's kind of intermediary on it.
They're basically a middleman. Yeah. And the thing is that you pay them a completely separate transfer fee for providing the service of swapping out your currency for another type of currency. So the banks and the banking institutions are doing the exact same thing. If you start thinking of banking institutions, finance institutions, and all these different companies that contact you all the time for all these loans and all this, if you think of them as just foreign currency swappers, it really just starts to make a lot more sense. It's much more simple, right? They are temporarily taking that of which you explicitly give them to go and do an exchange of which you explicitly tell them to do. If you do a blank endorsement, you're saying, "I don't want this anymore. Whoever wants this can take it," and then they take it.
Here's an interesting question. Does there always have to be a bank in between the Federal Reserve and the person? Or can there ever be a direct exchange between?
Technically, your name in all capital letters is technically a bank, the public corporation, the ens legis, right? Yeah. I've been doing some tests on this, and I've been getting ignored. I'm going to continue to do some tests on this, and I'm going to be sending in some more things. And if I'm continually ignored, I'm going to be filing a lawsuit with the Federal Reserve. And I'm going to file a lawsuit with the Federal Reserve just in an effort to open up a dialogue, meaning like, you guys won't talk to me. You guys are ignoring me. I'm sending this stuff in. I don't know if I'm supposed to have a bank or banking institution. I've talked to several, and none of them know how to do any of this. So you're telling me, can I do this through the ens legis? Can I not? If not, who the fuck do I talk to? No one knows. So you guys fucking tell me, because it's like, I'm willing to play by the rules, but no one fucking tells me anything. And that's basically what, through a lawsuit, you can force a dialogue, it's like, just fucking tell me, motherfucker, what I'm supposed to fucking do. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what the lawsuit is. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the direction that I'm heading right now.
It's interesting that you already tried that out, because I was thinking to myself as we were talking through this, what is the requirement that there be an intermediary bank involved in that? If the corporate person, the all caps name is already a bank for all intents and purposes under the Federal Reserve Act. So it's kind of
well, think about this.
Yeah.
When you create currency out of thin air and you use your credit card, what name is on your bills of exchange? Your name as a human person, as a natural person, or your name as an ens legis public corporation all caps name?
As the ens legis all caps name.
Yeah. So something is producing currency out of thin air.
Yeah.
From their perspective, it's actually the ens legis. It's not you as a natural person. Your signature flows into the public corporation, and then the public corporation manufactures the currency under the name of the public corporation. So if you think about it that way, in my head, it's like the fucking thing's a bank. It's a fucking bank.
Yep.
So like they say, like, member banks and all this kind of stuff in the Federal Reserve Act, Section 16, Part 2. I think in my head, well, my all caps name must be a Federal Reserve member bank.
Yep.
Oh,
That's why it's
oh,
important to go and read it and not have a preconceived notion as you're reading it through. Make sure you really understand each term and you're able to translate that so that you're not confused about it. Right.
yeah, because if your ens legis public corporation is not a bank, then that would mean that every single time you use your credit card and every single time you produce currency, every single person involved in that transaction, all the people who work at the bank, you, everybody's going to prison for more than 30 years for one transaction, just one. So if you bought a coffee in the morning with your credit card, if the ens legis is not a bank, everyone's going to prison for 30 years, like a whole fuck ton of people in the bank, anyone who helped process that transaction.
And
You
explain that a little more, like explain that, flesh that out.
because
Why?
because the thing is that if you're not a bank and the ens legis is, if you're not a banker and the ens legis public corporation, all caps name, is not a bank, that's securities fraud.
Yeah.
But if the ens legis public corporation, all caps name, is a bank, then it's a Federal Reserve member bank and it's an authorized representative of the Federal Reserve, which is why it's allowed to create promissory notes and exchange them for Federal Reserve notes. And the exchange process is always approved. It's never denied. And I think I have a lot of circumstantial evidence. I think theoretically that's the only way it could possibly be. It couldn't possibly be any other way. It doesn't make sense. It's physically impossible. So through almost like a process of elimination, I believe that the ens legis is a bank. It's a Federal Reserve member bank.
Yep. That's my understanding as well. But if, like you said, there's a difference between understanding something and then actually putting it to the test, and that's what we're talking about here. I mean, once you start to understand,
yeah, but even the people at the Federal Reserve don't know any of this, so it's kind of like there's two sides to this coin, and that's where litigation comes into play. Litigation is like, you're not going to fucking ignore me. We are going to talk about this.
It's like forcing the conversation, basically.
Forcing the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you force the conversation hard enough, and they don't even know if what you're saying is true, but they just acquiesce. Fuck it, whatever you want, Brandon. We don't even understand what you're talking about. You know this shit better than we do, and we fucking work here. Okay.
Yeah. Which is what we were doing beforehand. Like, we were the ones that were acquiescing up until now, because that's essentially what most people have been doing. And this is kind of why I've been wanting to bring this out into the sphere, is because everybody's been acquiescing. It's like, what are you told? Read the contract, read the details. There's a reason why you're being presented with this information. And but
the problem is that when you say the words read the contract, the most people believe that means look at the words that are there and then try to understand it based off of the definitions you already have. That's physically impossible. The actual definition of read a contract, basically in this sphere of what we're talking about, means to carefully investigate special definitions of every single word in the entire contract, which can take a lot of time, and it can take a lot of effort, right? But that's actually, like, for example, tender of payment, right? When we saw that earlier at the beginning of the show, if I would have said tender of payment versus after clearing up this exact specific definitions applied for tender and for payment, no one would have even been within a football field of understanding of what that meant. Tender, a lot of people just think that means, like, it's all over the map. You know what I mean? And then payment, people believe that means to send in Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah.
Digitally, or 25 years ago, it would have been like paper or checks.
Yep.
Okay. So it's one of those things where you are breaking and you are going up against a lot. One of the things that you're going up against is you're going up against the fact that you have to wake up and look in the mirror and say, I'm retarded. I am a legal retard. Like, you have to look in the mirror and you have to picture yourself as almost someone with like severe autism or Down syndrome. And that's tough. Most people can't do that. Yeah, most people have too much ego and too much pride to be able to look in the mirror and say, wow, look at this retard. You know what I mean? And I say the word retard because that's actually the legal term. is actually a
Yeah.
legal term,
Slow,
right?
to be slow. Yeah.
No, it's literally the legal definition of the word retard is somebody who generally has an IQ, I believe, lower than like 80 or 85. And it's someone who cannot handle their own affairs. It's someone who literally needs like, it's almost like someone who needs like a conservatorship. It's literally somebody who can't handle their own existence. They can't, it also ties into the word responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So responsibility, if you cut that word up into two sections, response, ability.
Ability to respond.
It's the ability to respond, right? So I look at it as the definition, the legal definition of the word retard. And if I were to write the definition of the word retard in the legal world right now, live on this show, brand new from my own understanding, it's somebody who does not have the ability to respond. So if you do not have the ability to create questions, to litigate, to respond, to press various confusions, to get various confusions clarified, to ask about the definitions of words, to press and move forward essentially your ideas and your questions and your concerns, then you are, by legal definition, not able to respond. For example, if they send you a bill and you never respond to it, the reason why there's a default judgment, or the reason why there's a default and they start coming after you legally, is because after they've sent you things multiple times and you've proven that you don't have the ability to respond, you are now tagged retarded.
Yep.
Once you're tagged retarded in the legal world, you become a ward of the court, and now they don't ask you anything anymore. They just go into your bank account and grab shit and leave, because you don't have the right. You've already proven that you don't have the ability to handle your day-to-day affairs. So why would they continue to try to ask you questions? Once
Like
you're
being a
labeled
minor.
retarded, you're basically a child in the law.
Yeah.
Would daddy ever go to his kid and say, I'm taking away 2 lollipops because you were bad in school. May I take those lollipops from you? No, he comes in, he puts the kid on the fucking thing and he says, you got a C in math, fuck you, or, some language of that sort, and says, no more video games for you, grabs the fucking PlayStation and walks out. He doesn't ask anybody anything. And that's what the court is doing when you prove that you're retarded or a child, which is the same thing in the law. It's retards and children are treated the same way in the law.
I heard someone say that when you always need to run to get the help of an attorney, it's kind of saying the same thing. Like you're not able to present yourself. Like you need representation.
That's all from the course. That's all from the contract killer course, my course. Yeah. It's if you cannot present yourself, then you need representation.
Yeah.
You need someone to present for you in your stead. The word represent is 2 different sections, re and present. You cannot present yourself, so you need representation.
Yep. And this is a good point for you to give a plug, so people are going to want to start following you and take your course, and tell people about how they can do all that. Like share, obviously I'll share some links below the video, but just kind of tell people who want to start diving into this and educate themselves, what are some of the resources that you have available to them?
Yeah, so I can do a screen share and show some things because it's kind of overwhelming for some people. So I have a website. It's all a big joke. It's all done in a very kind of fake antagonism, but most people don't really realize that it's fake unless you kind of hang around for more than a few minutes. So it's onestupidfuck.com, which is all self-deprecating humor type basis on this, trying to bring a lot of levity into the situation. A lot of these shows I go on, I'm more business. I'm kind of all business because we're trying to deliver something of value and explain something. And it's kind of like, we start adding in a lot of jokes and levity and it becomes 4-hour podcast real fast. So I have a tendency to really kind of nail it down. But all my other materials, like very kind of low key, whatever, like my course is like me cracking jokes and singing, and it's much more slow paced. Some people, it drives them kind of crazy, but for most people, a majority of people who don't have an IQ of 160 or whatever, they for your average person, I did it for the average person. I didn't do it for your Mensa people, I wanted to make this something that anyone could study. So it is kind of slow. There is a lot of fluff. There is a lot of goofiness. There's a lot of entertainment value to it. Okay. So I have a step-by-step guide, and I just wrote a frequently asked questions section just recently,
Nice.
literally yesterday. So this is a lot of the main questions people usually ask right out the gate. That's there now. And then I have the free contract killer course, which is the audio visual presentation. It's 39 days of videos for free. One video per day for 39 days. It's about 24, 25 hours of video total. You would type your first name in here, last name here, and your email here. And then I also have my book or text version of all of the research, which is the State National Theory page. This is constantly updated. I actually updated it yesterday. It is all text-based breakdown of all the information you're going to find in the course. The newest, hottest version of all the information is on this page because this is constantly updated. This is basically a living book, of which whenever I find really good case law or whenever I find really good definitions or whenever I have some kind of breakthrough in the technology and the research, then I go through here and I update this on a regular basis. The Contract Killer course was released last year, July 2nd, 2022. So a lot has changed since then, but it's all still mostly very applicable. And like I say in my step-by-step guide, the best thing to do is to sign up for the free course, start watching the videos as they come, and then in the meanwhile, you can start reading this. And then also, I have a podcast page. Podcast page is where all of my guest spots are on all the different shows that I'm on. I've been on like probably over 60 shows now, 65 shows. The biggest show I've ever done is Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli. Very big show. It's like the underground version of the Joe Rogan show, basically.
Nice.
He's very close friends with Joe Rogan. He's on the Joe Rogan Experience quite often. Sam Tripoli is a great guy, hilarious. I've actually seen him at some comedy shows. He's a professional comedian here in Los Angeles. This is a great show. If you are new to a lot of the information, it might be a good spot for you to start immediately. Very recently done. It was done in September of this year. And then on my YouTube channel, there's also a bunch of additional videos that are sometimes posted there as well. So there's a few different places where you can see a lot of content, and that's kind of it. That's how you can get started.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Brandon. And another reason I wanted to bring you on is of all the creators and the materials I've gone through, you have made, in my opinion, the most effort to get everything really organized. It's all there available. And as you've shown, it's available in video format. It's available in written format. So you're covering all the bases. And I haven't really seen, all the other people that I've talked about, like Chris Hauser and Mansa, they're all doing great work, and others. But I think the way you've set yourself apart, and I can tell that you're doing this because you really care a lot, is you've put all this information out for free. Now, obviously, I know you charge a lot for people to work with you. I have the same approach with my business. Like, I give away all of the knowledge that I share for free. And then if someone wants to work with me one-on-one, it's at least 10 grand, so it's kind of that same model. I think that's the best model, the kind of the Dan Pena kind of model of
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you into Dan Pena previous to this, or?
I watched him for several years. This was
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I was like really following a lot of his content for years.
So you're like me. That's hilarious. Yeah. So I'm a huge Dan Pena freak. I'm like I'm like Dan Pena. Yeah. Well, he has two words. He has devotee and then he has mentee. I'm not a mentee because I haven't been to the Castle seminar, but I'm a devotee like you wouldn't believe. I'm a diehard devotee. My two big, huge, I guess you could say, mentor people who I've learned so much through all of their writing and all of their mentality is Dan S. Pena and Dan S. Kennedy.
Yep.
Dan S. Kennedy is basically the Russell Brunson of the 80s and 90s, direct-to-consumer advertising, back-of-the-room sales. The guy is absolutely fucking brilliant, and a lot of the marketing, all the marketing that I do and my branding and everything pretty much that I do on my website and everything is based off of Dan S. Kennedy's teachings.
Great.
So a couple of my huge, they're by far my biggest influences when it comes to all this stuff, those two guys. And Dan S. Pena, he specifically talks about how he likes the free all the way down. And then if you want my time, you're gonna pay in blood and organs, because he likes the fact that if it's all free, you have no obligation to do anything.
But you also have no excuse to, to not to do
Yeah,
it.
you have no excuse, you have no
You can only blame
obligation.
yourself for
And it's
not
like,
doing it.
it's funny because haters come in and they complain and they just get dogpiled.
Yeah.
They get obliterated. You don't even need to do anything. They get obliterated. People are like, bro, it's free. What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Like, I mean, I literally you don't have any haters. You don't have any problems. It's a very low stress model, because I have no obligation to anybody. I can get an email right now. If somebody asks me something, I can tell them, hey, go fuck yourself, and send them a picture of like a horse dick. And there's nothing they can do. A lot of people just laugh and they just kind of, oh yeah, whatever. And they continue to follow you because they know, like, people know instinctually there's no leverage. Nobody has any leverage for anything. I don't do it specifically because of that, but it's just one of the benefits of having this kind of model.
Yeah. And like I said, I've adopted that with my own business dealings, doing, sales consulting and consulting for business clients. I think it's a great model, and it takes, it takes a lot of the excuses off the table. And, and then it gets to the point, I've noticed that when people get to the point where they do want to actually work with me, they've already gotten so much value that it's easier, it's not such a hard pill to swallow. Like, okay, I'm going to actually spend that money because I've already gotten results just from all the free content. And that's kind of what I'm saying here with relation to what you're doing is people can go really far with this content to fully understand this and to get deep into it. And then they're probably going to get they're almost certainly going to get some results. I'm expecting that. And then, and if you want to plug your book, that's great.
I'm going to plug this in. Yeah.
And then if they actually want to hire you, obviously you're going to charge a hefty fee, but they probably have gotten pretty far by that point.
Yeah, so I have a book here that I wrote on this subject exactly. This was before I started getting into all the legal stuff. The book is
Great concept.
Don't Be a Slave to Your Clients, Break Your Chains and Regain Your Sanity. How to attract the ideal client, create mutual respect, and feel great again about your business. This is all about setting up a free course, setting up free sales lines, free marketing lines, getting the prospect fed into some sort of like very high value automatic system. And then out the other end, there's no price resistance, very, very easy closes. It's all here. How to handle emails, how to handle the phones, everything that I've developed and everything that I do with all of my material based off of a lot of, reading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I've read Dan Pena's book, Your First 100 Million, probably over 30 times. Nice. There's not a lot of books that I read more than once. The only books in my entire life that I've ever willingly, completely on my own determinism, voraciously read more than once is Dan Pena's Your First 100 Million and The Alabaster Girl by Zan Parian.
I know who that is. Yep.
Yeah. So even the cool thing about Dan S. Kennedy is he has so much material that you don't have to reread the same book over and over again.
Sure.
He has like 37 books, countless seminars. He's got everything, right? And then Dan S. Pena, all of his Castle seminars are all recorded on his website, and you can watch them for free. He goes way, way back. I spent
years of them. I
spent years of my life. I spent probably 2.5 years of my life listening to Dan Pena's seminars for hours and hours a day. He has hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of video. Dan S. Pena, the $1 trillion man. He's here. He has his own he has his own technology. He calls it his own technology. Basically, it's called QLA. Yep. QLA stands for Quantum Leap Advantage. Basically, the way it works is, and he's very close with Brian Rose, the founder of London Real. He basically the way QLA works is basically how to get a business or buy a business or take over an already running business, how to flip it around, fix it up, securitize it, and then either do like an initial public offering or a private sale or something like that, basically within like 1 year. And he's a very stouch, like hardcore, all day, sleep in the office, fuck you, kind of like teaching mentality. It's a very old school military style teaching. And it's basically literally how to take a business, pump up the hog, as he says, and then offload it and make $100 million in like a year and a half. It's a beautiful, beautiful.
Without spending your own money too. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
he's teaching you how to use leverage.
When it comes to business training, if anyone's interested in any sort of like business anything, in my opinion, Dan Pena is the very, very top of that totem pole currently in our society. Yeah. It doesn't go any higher. It doesn't get any better than Dan Pena. Dan Pena is not necessarily a marketing sales guru specifically. Sure. That's why I go to, Dan S. Kennedy. He has, it's called the no BS, no bullshit. He's sort of like the marketing and sales guy for me. No bullshit marketing, magnetic marketing, how to attract your ideal client. This is my favorite guy for that specific area of marketing and sales. He has a lot of humor. All of his writing is, I mean, honestly, a lot of my writing is based off of his writing. To be totally frank with you, more than anybody else, Dan S. Kennedy has influenced my writing probably more than almost anybody. So a lot of people enjoy my writing. So if you enjoy my writing, you're going to enjoy Dan a lot. It is kind of ironic that they're both Dan S. and then last name. Yeah. But on Dan Pena's website, you can go to I think videos, and then you can go to QLA seminar videos. And this is actually the location where you can see all the way back to 2012. Amazing. And you can go all the way back to 2012, and then you can see there'll be a whole breakdown of all the different videos for that particular time period. And it's many, many hours of video for each one of these subsections. So as you can see, it took me probably 2 years of listening, 1 to 4 or 5 hours a day to get through all of this. I think I finished, and I had actually gone all the way to the end somewhere in here or here. And I haven't really listened to the newer stuff, like the 2022 stuff or the 2023 stuff. It does, after 2.5 years of listening to him, it does, you do start to get a pretty good understanding of everything that he's going to be teaching and did teach. And he even says in his seminars, you can even watch these ones here, the opening. He said, he basically tells all the people who are there at the seminar, you're all fucking retarded. You could have gotten all this information for free on my website, but instead you spent all this fucking money and you flew across the world to go to Scotland in my castle, and it's dumb. You could have just stayed at home in the comfort of your own home and gotten it all for free. And he kind of fucks with the audience and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny, but it's really true. It's really, really true. You can get everything that he will ever teach here, and then you can also go to downloads.
Some people want to have that in-person experience. That
of course. And he used to do 1 year mentorship. Once you left the castle, it was a 1 year mentorship. I believe he stopped that in like 2016, 2018, something like that. He's like, you people are too fucking retarded. I'm tired of this. But they also have downloads. You have the QLA ebook, which is your first 100 million. You have the audio book that's actually voiced by Dan Pena himself. It's all free. And then you have a Russian ebook and a Romanian ebook as well. It's all free. So he has the top level $1 million if you want to talk to me, and then everything below that is all free. And that's the model that's where I got that model from, which is interesting because you're the first person I've ever talked to that.
I love his stuff. I used to listen to it like a drug addict,
Yeah, me too.
I couldn't get enough of, because I felt like just listening to it, I felt if I just absorbed one concept per session of listening, I used to actually jog and listen to the seminars. Now that I remember. Yeah. Like,
anytime I was driving a car for probably 2.5 years, I was listening to Dan Pena. Literally, if I was driving a car, it was Pena.
But I'm glad you introduced me to Dan Kennedy. Not that I had never heard of him before, but I have never actually listened to any of his material or gone through his stuff, and I can tell, I know enough about him as that he's a worthwhile individual to, his material is worthwhile. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm actually going to go and check out some of his stuff now.
Oh, he's the best. He's the absolute
Yeah.
best. He's the kind of funny, more laid back, more chill.
Yeah.
He's not the militant Pena at all. He's a jokey kind of. He's hilarious. He's absolutely freaking hilarious. A lot of humor. Even his branding is hilarious. It's a bull like jumping, and then it has this circle with the line through it, like Ghostbusters, and it's no BS marketing, and it's like that's his whole brand, no bullshit. And it really is no bullshit. All of his books are just jam packed with amazing information. There's no fluff. There's really no bullshit. It's a wonderful everything I have ever listened to or read that came from Dan S. Kennedy was absolutely gold in so many ways, and it has contributed massively to everything that I'm doing. So highly recommended.
That's awesome. And ultimately, sales and marketing is all about just knowing your authentic value and just not being afraid, just going out there confidently and just putting it out there. Like if you have something of value, then you're not going to hold yourself back to share that as long as you're clear that that's what you want to do. And then it's just a matter of adding your own unique style to it. Like in your case, it's one stupid fuck, making fun of the fact that, oh, we're so stupid, we didn't figure this out,
Yeah.
until now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the inside joke. But yeah, I mean, it's just ultimately it's just a matter about knowing the value and then just putting it out there.
Oh yeah. No one exemplifies that better than Dan Pena.
Yep, that's
he is
great.
he is brutally honest, and he says things that amazingly he's just so confident, and he's just so open about his opinions and where he stands that he doesn't really get canceled, because if there's anybody in the world that should be getting canceled, it's Dan Pena. But it's just,
He's the least politically correct person that
oh
you'll.
yeah, that doesn't get any crazier than fucking Pena. I mean, people who are left leaning, I mean, I'm surprised they wouldn't burst into flames spontaneously just being near him. I mean, he's just so
There's
he's
some
just.
videos on YouTube of people melting down when he goes to college
Oh
campus.
yeah. I've seen those. Those are yeah. He's just,
The snowflakes, as he calls them.
and he doesn't. I think the only reason why he gets away with it is because he's very grandfatherly in a lot of ways, and because like when he says shit, like he actually truly believes it and really means it. He's not just saying shit just to like light people up. Uh, Once he's challenged, obviously he'll say things to light people up, but like everything he says while he's saying it, he really it's really like really where he's at, like for real, like 1,000%. And I think that's kind of the authenticity aspect of how he delivers is so extreme that I think that's probably the only reason why he's able to do it.
Yeah. Well, you're in your own way. I mean, you have your own unique style, but I think what captured my attention with all the information you were sharing is I could tell you cared a lot,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like I could tell you cared a lot, and obviously that's, you explained it. That's why you wanted to give it away for free, or at least the course, that part of it, enough that people could start to really wrap their head around it. So personally, I just wanted to thank you because you were the starting point, regardless of how many people I've got, I'm starting to learn from, and we can always learn from more people. Like as far as this knowledge is concerned, overstanding our rights, understanding, what's really going on in terms of finances, how it really works. Like you started for me. So I wanted to thank you for that. And that's also why I wanted to get you here in front of my audience, because ultimately we're doing, the reason why we're trying to get that out is not just because we want to, make our, put money in our own pockets. Sure, everybody wants that, but we want to win together. And my
yeah.
whole platform is about helping people become free. But in order to become free, you have to use your mind. You have to think. You have to educate yourself. There, freedom. Here's the big paradox. Freedom is not free. Freedom
Yeah.
is not free. It never was meant to be. It never will be. It's always, there will always be a price to freedom, and the starting point of that price is educating yourself and taking responsibility.
Yeah, and I think that law is really finally, for me, it's like even the word responsibility is often used as like a weapon, like, oh, you need to take responsibility, you need to be more responsible. But it's like the people who are saying that have no clue what they're talking about, and the people who are hearing it have no clue what the hell they're hearing. And that's why there's so much upset, emotional upset. Like if you were to think back of every single time in your entire life someone used the word responsible or responsibility at you or towards you, it pissed you off.
Sure.
Whether it's 4% or 100%, it pissed you off. And the reason why it pissed you off is because you don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're trying to use that as some kind of weird weapon to try to make you do something that they want you to do. It's just control bullshit, right? And I think that the beauty of and they don't really even necessarily know they're even doing it. It's like psychosis on top of psychosis with like a layer of shadows with like death. It's just the whole thing is just shit. But when you get into the legal world, I feel like the whole able to respond and retard child thing, I feel like that's really what it actually is. And I feel like that clarifies the subject. It's like, can you respond or can you not respond? Not taking responsibility means not responding.
Yeah.
Not responding or not taking responsibility means that you are a child or a retard.
Yep. And it also means that you are making a choice by default, because not choosing or not taking action is also a form of choice.
Yes.
It just means that whatever's going to come upon you is based on whatever's already in play, which is not probably in most cases not going to be to your benefit.
And that's why with the word responsibility, you got to be really careful, because when you tell someone be responsible, everyone has a different, weird, convoluted, fucked up, incorrect definition of what that means. Not 100% of everybody, when they say be responsible, there's some kind of like completely arbitrary manufactured idea of what that is. It could be responsible means every day after work, you need to come home to your children and you need to spend time with your children for an hour and a half every single evening. In their own mind, that's what they're talking about.
Fulfilling certain conditions that.
Yeah. And it's like completely arbitrary, completely manufactured. And sometimes they don't even communicate what their definition is.
Yeah.
The thing about the ability to respond is you aren't actually defining what that response is supposed to be, because you cannot do that for another person. Yep. A child or a retard does not respond. An adult responds in whatever way they, as a fucking individual human being, want to respond with.
Based on
the definition of responsibility is not what you respond, how you respond. It's just the fact that you fucking do it.
Yep.
That's an adult. An adult responds. A child or a retard does not. And I feel like that is such a that's like one of the most massive things in all of this, in my opinion, because it's like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like that's that is like a philosophical conversation and realization that is so all encompassing. It encompasses every single aspect of the entire fabric of your existence. It's not just a legal thing. It's just that through law, in my opinion, you learn a lot of really crazy, deep philosophical things. It's a spiritual experience because it's so old. A lot of this stuff's so old. I mean, you're going back to very old technologies and religion, and it goes through all sorts of craziness, right? So when you realize these basic ideas, then you realize that you can take control of your life, and you can take control of all the different areas of your life. Even, for example, with your wife, let's say, for example, an inability or an unwanting to respond would mean that you're a child or a retard within that marriage. Now, not to say that they're not also a child or a retard. You could have two children or two retards, and they're both not responding to one another, or they have a very poor ability to respond, and then you just have two retards going back and forth. That's how a lot of marriages sound, right? So the thing is that it's one of those things where, this idea and this situation is so clear and so cool. Like, for example, the definition of the word argue means to make clear, which is no one knows. There's a whole video number 16.
And it's not the connotation that people have with respect to the word argue.
No. So if you take the word argue and you take the basic tenet of the idea of law and the idea of litigation and the idea of a courtroom is the settling of disputes. So if you were to draw that out at the beginning, you would have, does the person have the ability to respond? No means they're a child or a retard. Yes means Okay, now they're going to respond. They're obviously an adult. Okay, so now you move forward onto the flow chart and you have the adult section. Now the adult section is going to now argue. So what's the definition of argue? The argue means to make clear your desires, to make clear your interests, to make clear your perceptions. I see this. I think this. I want this. I believe I should be doing this and this. Okay. That would be arguing. Okay. Now there's a dispute, and the whole point of arguing is to move that dispute from being this far over into the dispute category. You're trying to move that dispute over to a settlement by having the ability to respond properly and argue, which means to make clear.
Yep.
Once you complete that process, you now arrive at a settlement. Now that settlement might be, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yep. But it can still be an agreement.
Settlement does not mean I acquiesce and I'm your little bitch and I don't even want to be here, but I'm going to do what you say because whatever. That's not a settlement. A settlement is what is the greatest thing or action or situation or policy that needs to now be put into place or implemented in order to benefit both parties or all parties to the maximum degree. And that would be the flow chart of how. That's not the flow chart of the legal world. That's the flow chart of the whole goddamn existence of life. So if you see, this is not just legal. We're not talking about just legal. The more you go into this and the more you study this stuff, you realize that this is crazy ass philosophy, spirituality. This is just as crazy as some of the most new agey magical shit you will ever experience in your entire life.
That's right. And it's all been there in front of us the whole time, and I missed it, and it's okay. Like I'm saying to people here in the audience, if you didn't get it until now, today is a new day. Take a deep breath, just move, just commit to moving forward, to becoming a person who's going to pay attention, right? It's, a big part of this is pay attention. Don't assume that you understand the definitions of words. Don't assume that you understand the definitions of the phrasing. Don't assume that you understand what somebody asked you to do or didn't do. You take full responsibility. If you have to spend a little more time to figure things out, that's great. Spend more time on it so that you make better choices.
Well, yeah. Think about it. Even in relation to what you just said to relation to what I just said. Asking about what things mean and the definition of things is literally responding.
Yep.
If you are let's say you get a bill in the mail. And you say, I have a few questions about this bill, and you're responding to the bill. They can't default judgment onto you.
No.
Just if you're just asking fucking questions, do you realize you can win almost any lawsuit and almost any bill, and you can get lawyers and everybody else to go away by just asking a fuck ton of questions?
Yep.
It's that simple.
Keep throwing the ball back in their court. Clarify that. It
has to be genuine. You can't be a fucking, if you're an asshole and they find out and they realize that they're going to fucking want to kill you. But I'm just saying, like, you tell me, you look at a fucking bill and you tell me if you understand every single string of numbers, every single string of letters, every single thing they're trying to fucking say in the letter. You tell me. I'll tell you right now, every single letter I see, I got all sorts of fucking questions, man. Questions I know they can't answer, but the thing is that I know they can't answer it. And I know I could be a dick by asking it. But when I ask the questions, like, I'm actually genuine. Like you say a payment can only be made in blah, 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 US dollars. And it's like, well, I did send in a payment as per the definition of a payment. And it is US dollars as per the definition of US dollars. So I don't see, like, you're telling me this needs to be in a certain format. I've already sent you that format and you rejected it as per UCC 3-603. That means that there's already a discharge of the tender anyway. So where exactly do you want this to go? Because I am not following you at all. Now, of course, they're not going to have any clue of any of that, and it's just going to be very overwhelming to them. But it's a genuine, on my end, it's genuine. It's like, what's the deal here, guys? Like, this is your job. You're over there getting paid to do this. Like, it's not my job. So, what are you trying to do here? You know what I mean?
Ask good questions. That is a great way to put it. And from a genuine place, you're right. We're not just trying to ask questions just to, create a game of volley or, volleyball. That's not the point. We want to get to the truth. And
Hmm.
the way to get to the truth, if you don't already have the information, is to ask good questions.
And
And
that's the law.
yeah,
That's the law. A judge is trying to get at the truth. The lawyers, lawyers are pretty shady, but the basic idea of what a lawyer should be doing is getting at the truth.
yeah,
The court is trying to figure out what the truth is, publish the truth. It's all about the unveiling and publishing and organizing of the truth. That is the basic idea of law itself.
yeah,
So again, it's just very enlightening for your whole existence. It's not just a legal thing. You're not just studying law as this like totally separate, cloistered activity. As it's this is a this is a lifestyle. This is a complete personal, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional transformation.
absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, we've been just over 2 hours, and I think we have dropped tremendous bombs of value here, on the audience. And this, gives a lot. I've even I learned a ton of new things just from this conversation. I'm going to go back and probably listen to this conversation a couple of times. I'm going to go back and dive in more into some of the materials on your website and also some of the other things that you shared. I mean, I've got a whole list. I don't know if you guys saw, I was taking notes, and I have a whole homework assignment for myself. Hopefully you who's watching this have been inspired as much as I have. And I've already been following Brandon for a few months. So hopefully you who's new to his work got inspired. And if so, then this has been a success. If you got just enough inspiration to go off and take the next step, that's really all that matters, because all you can do next is the next thing you're going to do. So Brandon, I want to thank you very much for joining me on this podcast today. And let's stay in touch. And if there's interest on the part of the audience and it makes sense, we can always have another conversation. But regardless, I know you're going to continue doing great work. So I appreciate everything that you've done, everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And right now, my research, just so everybody knows, is basically like very focused in on like hardcore, like litigation, like how that
Yep.
works, how trials work. Like that's kind of like for the past 2 years, it's all been like paperwork, sending shit in, all this.
Yeah.
But then now, like, there's a lot of areas where we're getting really good results. And there's other areas like infinite money, for example, where we're getting some blowback. And there's been a lot of research and a lot of things that have been developed to like reduce the amount of blowback.
Yep.
But the only area that you're going to be able to get 100% complete, like standardized results of everything you want to do in law is through the process of litigation. Okay. So that's where a lot of my research is right now. It's a big hurdle. It's a very large hump that I'm kind of going over right now. So I go on shows and stuff like that. But in terms of like the course videos and stuff, that's going to be a while before I release more material. I'm going to be filing lots of lawsuits, going through the processes. I'll probably start posting a lot of the cases and stuff like that, because all lawsuit cases and stuff like that are all public. You can look up all the information. You can even look up all of the documents that are submitted by all parties. It's all full-blown public information. People don't realize that. You can actually download an app called the Pacer app.
Yep.
You can pay a monthly fee, and you can actually look up all the PDF files of anything that people file. They file this, they file that, it could be 180 filings. You can actually download all the PDFs for every single one. So I will be
Cool.
putting up those case files so that people can follow along. I will be teaching people and going through the different motions and how it works and that kind of thing. It's definitely the probably the most difficult part, but also the most rewarding part in terms of knowing that all of these processes will have 100% success once we figure this last element out of the litigation.
Yeah, that's a great point. People keep that in mind, that it's not going to be a hard science. We're dealing with human beings here, not, on the other side of the equation too. When, somebody who receives these letters or the information that we receive, they're as much as a human being on the other side as you and I are. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get a specific outcome every time. It's just a matter of getting better and better at articulating, what your intentions are, being very clear in the process, following processes very clearly, and then, generating what we can call more repeatable results. So,
Yes.
But there's enough information in terms of, even though you're obviously pushing forward, Brandon, I know there's enough knowledge share and information on what you've already published for people to stay busy for quite a while until they even catch up to that point. It's great to hear that you're always on the cutting edge, as I I would expect you to be. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you get out of that. I'm going to continue taking action on myself, and I encourage everybody to. So folks can write questions below this video, share it with other people, get the word out. Go to onestupidfuck.com. Did you want to promote your other website, or you just want to leave it at that for now?
I have a law firm website, but I don't really take on any clients that haven't done tons of self-education and they're not
Okay,
already like quite a ways down the river, so to speak, with
for
the boat.
sure.
So I always start people there. You'll see some ads in my videos now. You'll see ads in the descriptions of the videos on YouTube. You'll see things littered around now. I am taking on a lot of clients right now. So it's just kind of one of those things where you're going to start with the educational material. You're going to get yourself rolling. You're
Yep.
going to learn a lot of good things. And then if you do decide that you want to work with me personally, then I do have a link on my main website to the law firm. There's also a lot of good information on the law firm website though, too. So you should consume it, a lot of the information just on an educational basis, regardless of anything else. So yeah.
Cool. I'll share both of those links as well as your YouTube channel. I'll share a couple of different links so people have no excuses as far as like where to find your information. And yeah, people just go for it, get involved, start taking action, start with step number one. Brandon, thanks again for joining me today. It's been awesome.
Thank you, my friend.